This story is titled, They Raised My Brother as the Golden Boy. When I bought a house, they wanted it in his name. Hi, everyone. Before we dive a quick favor. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It is free, supports the channel, and make sure you never miss out on amazing video. Alright, let us get started. My parents always said my brother deserved more because he was the man of the house. When I bought my first home, they demanded I put it in his name. I refused, and when I revealed the truth, it left them speechless. Hey Reddit, I'm a 29-year-old woman, and honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened with my family these last few months. I've gone back and forth on whether to even post this, but it's been eating at me, and I keep replaying the conversations in my mind, especially the moment when it all finally blew up. I guess a little backstory will help this make more sense. I grew up in a household that was about as traditional as it gets. My parents had firm ideas about roles, and my older brother Damon, who's 32 now, was always put on a pedestal. Ever since Dad had to retire early for health reasons, Damon was seen as the man of the house, and he was treated like a king. Me? I was expected to stay quiet, be helpful, and know my place. From as early as I can remember, Damon got the biggest bedroom, the newest gadgets, the first plate of food, you name it. When we were teenagers, I was the one picking up part-time jobs while Damon sat around playing video games all day. Still, my parents would shower him with praise for being so responsible. Meanwhile, I was the one helping Mom in the kitchen, covering extra shifts to buy my own textbooks. I can't even count the number of times I heard, "Honey, you have to understand Damon has a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. One day he'll be the one taking care of all of us." Spoiler, he didn't. After high school, Damon flunked out of community college, not once, but twice. He tried starting a landscaping business that never went anywhere, and he racked up mountains of debt buying tools he never even used. And every time he failed, my parents swooped in to bail him out, acting like they were making some noble sacrifice for the family legacy. Meanwhile, I managed to get into a decent state school with partial scholarships, paid my way through the rest by working nights, and earned a degree in digital marketing. I landed a solid remote job right after graduation, and after years of saving every penny I could, I finally bought my first house a few months ago. Not a mansion or anything, just a cozy 2-bedroom place with a small backyard, but it's all mine. I cried the day I signed those papers. I'd done it completely on my own. At first, I didn't tell my parents. Part of me wanted to protect that happiness a little longer, keep it untouched by their judgment. But eventually, I figured, maybe this time they'd actually be proud of me. So I invited them over. Big mistake. The second they walked in, I could feel the disappointment rolling off them. "Oh," my mom said, wrinkling her nose like she smelled something rotten. "It's smaller than I thought." Dad wandered around making these little grunts, barely saying a word. Damon just stood there, arms folded, surveying the place like he was judging it. I offered them tea and cookies I'd baked that morning. Mom took one bite and said they were a little dry, and I could feel the knot tightening in my stomach. I tried to keep things light, but then Damon spoke up. "So, whose name is it under?" he asked. I blinked. "Mine. I bought it." He looked over at Dad, then back at me. "Yeah, but like, legally? Is it under your name? Or, the family trust or something?" I laughed, thinking he was joking. "Nope, it's under my name. Paid the down payment myself." He stared at me like I'd just spoken another language. "Why wouldn't you put it under my name?" he said. "I mean, I'm the one who's going to take care of Mom and Dad. You don't even live nearby." Before I could even process that, Mom jumped in, setting her teacup down with a loud clink. "Exactly. Damon's the man of the family. You don't know the pressure he's under, making sure we're all okay. It would mean a lot to give him that security." I just sat there, stunned. It was like they'd rehearsed it, like it was just expected I'd hand it over without a second thought. "I'm sorry," I said slowly, "but why would I give Damon the house I worked years to afford?" Dad scoffed. "Don't be selfish, Talia. It's not about the money. It's about doing the right thing. Damon's always been there for us. You're the one who ran off to chase your own dreams." "I ran off to get a job," I snapped back. "One that pays enough to buy this house. Damon's still living in your basement." Damon's face turned red as he stood up. "I didn't come here to be insulted." I stood too, my heart pounding in my chest. "And I didn't invite you here so you could try to guilt-trip me out of the only thing I've worked for." "You watch your tone, young lady," my mom hissed. That's when it hit me. They were never going to see me as anything more than a backup plan. The extra kid. The one expected to sacrifice without asking for anything in return. But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. The room was dead silent except for the sound of my own breathing. Damon stood there with his arms crossed. Mom looked ready to start yelling, and Dad, true to form, had gone completely silent. I gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, trying to keep my cool. But inside, something finally broke loose. They really thought I owed them this. I took a breath and said, "There's something you don't know. About the house. About a lot of things." Mom narrowed her eyes. "If this is about you being ungrateful again." "It's not." I cut her off. "Just let me finish." Damon sat back down, glaring at me. I crossed the room to my bookshelf and pulled out a plain blue folder I'd hidden behind some cookbooks. Inside were all the documents, my loan approval, closing paperwork, savings breakdown, every penny accounted for since my first internship. I handed the folder to my dad. "What's this?" he muttered, flipping it open. While he skimmed through, I spoke. "I didn't just buy a house. I paid off my student loans. I have a 6-month emergency fund. I've been investing since I was 22. I've lived below my means. And I didn't ask either of you for a single dime." Mom frowned. "We know you're good with money. What's your point?" I looked her straight in the eye. "My point is, you came here today thinking you were entitled to what I worked for. But where were you when I was skipping meals to make rent? Where was Damon when I was working double shifts to pay for school?" Dad set the folder down, looking uncomfortable. "We didn't know. You didn't ask," I said. Damon scoffed. "So what? You think a few smart decisions make you better than the rest of us?" "No," I said, my voice steady. "They make me independent. And that means I get to decide what happens to what's mine." Damon leaned forward, his voice sharp. "You're still family. Families take care of each other." I nodded slowly. "I agree. So let's really talk about that." I picked up my phone and scrolled to a picture I'd saved, a screenshot of Damon's college loan records. I handed the phone to my mom. "What's this?" she asked. "Proof," I said quietly. "Proof that Damon never graduated." Her face fell as she read. Damon went rigid. "You told them you finished," I said, turning to him. "You lied." Dad looked up sharply. "Damon, tell her she's wrong." Damon shrugged. "It's not a big deal. I didn't need a degree once I started my business." Mom's face twisted into something I couldn't even recognize. Pain. Confusion. Betrayal. I kept going. "You used my high school savings to pay off that loan. You told me it was a loan, that you'd pay me back when the business took off." My voice cracked, but I pushed through. "That was 10 years ago." Silence. Dad rubbed his temples. Mom just looked lost. Damon just looked annoyed. And that's when I realized they didn't care about fairness. They cared about control. I stood, walked to the hallway closet, and pulled out another folder, this one black and heavier. I held it in my hands for a moment before turning to face them. "This," I said, "is what I owe you." And I laid it on the table. My mom had gone pale, and my dad just sat there, looking like he was trying to piece everything together without letting it show. I sat back down, set the black folder flat on the table, and tapped the cover. "This," I said, "is everything I've kept record of. Every transaction. Every withdrawal. Every transfer from my account to Dad's. Every time Mom used my ATM card in high school, claiming it was for groceries, even though somehow I was the only one eating ramen while the others got takeout every night." Dad frowned. "That was to keep the lights on. You knew we were struggling. And I was a kid." I shot back. "A kid who thought it was normal to hand over her entire paycheck because she was told it was her responsibility." I paused, letting that sink in. I started keeping records back then because something didn't feel right. I didn't know how to say no, but I knew it wasn't supposed to be like that. My mom's voice was barely a whisper. "You were helping the family. That's what good daughters do." I looked her dead in the eye. "Good daughters don't get used. Good daughters aren't the ones constantly having to prove themselves while their brother gets a gold star for waking up before noon." Damon let out an exaggerated scoff. "This is pathetic. You're still holding a grudge from, what, 10 years ago? Grow up." "You're right," I said quietly. "It was 10 years ago. And you know what I've done since then? I grew up. I worked my ass off. I built a life. I paid my dues. And I made damn sure to protect myself." I opened the folder. Inside were notarized statements, screenshots of all the old bank activities, and tucked at the very back, a letter from my lawyer. Yeah, I hired one. Not because I wanted to sue anybody, but because when I bought this house, I realized I needed to protect myself from everyone, including my family. If anything ever happened to me, I wanted my assets locked down tight. I'm not here to fight, I said. I'm here to explain what's going to happen next and why. I slid the letter across the table to Dad. He opened it and started reading. I watched his face, the subtle change in his expression when he hit the first few lines. Mom leaned over his shoulder, trying to read too. What is this? She asked. It's a legal notice, I said calmly. It spells it out. Any attempt to access, claim, or interfere with my property without my permission will lead to formal legal action. Everything I own is protected. No shared accounts. No family trusts. No handshake agreements. Everything's locked down unless it's signed and witnessed. Damon let out a short, bitter laugh. You're acting like we're trying to rob you. I turned toward him. You asked me to put my house in your name. You said I owed it to you. If that's not trying to take something, what exactly would you call it? He didn't have a comeback for that. For once, he shut up. I could see my mom still trying to wrap her head around everything. She needed a version of the story where she wasn't the bad guy. Where she was just the concerned mother. Talia, she started, her voice trembling a little. We didn't know you felt this way. If we had, maybe we would have handled it differently. I nodded. Maybe. But you never asked. You never once asked how I was doing. You just assumed I'd fall in line like always. My dad finally spoke, his voice low. So what now? You cutting us off completely? That question hit harder than I wanted to admit. A tiny part of me, some stubborn old reflex, wanted to say no. Wanted to fix it. But I didn't. Because love without respect isn't safety, and I didn't feel safe with them anymore. No, I said, steady. But things are going to be different. And they were. Because what they didn't know, not yet, was that this house wasn't even the endgame. They thought I was still the little girl they could control. They had no clue what was coming next. There was a weird kind of silence that settled in the room after that. Not anger. Not disappointment. It was that heavy kind of silence when people realize they're not talking to the person they thought they knew. I didn't rush to fill it. I let it hang there, heavy and awkward. Mom kept darting her eyes between me and the lawyer's letter, like she was praying this was all just a warning, something I wouldn't really follow through on. But Damon, he wasn't fooled. You know what this is, he said, sitting back like he was solving a puzzle. This is a power trip. You finally get a little success, and now you think you're better than everyone who raised you. Helped raise me, I corrected him, the word sharp. I stared him down. While you were flunking out and begging for second chances, I was working double shifts and studying till sunrise. I cooked my own meals. I did my own laundry. You got bailed out every time you screwed up. I was left to figure it out alone. He opened his mouth, gearing up to argue, but I lifted my hand to stop him. Don't, I said. Don't twist this around. I'm not punishing anybody. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. I took a breath. And then I added, and I'm not done yet. I walked over to the TV stand and pulled out another envelope, thin, handwritten, no fancy seals. Just something I'd quietly been building over the last couple years. I wasn't planning on showing you this yet, I said, coming back to the table, but now seems like the right time. I slid the envelope across the table, placing it beside the lawyer's letter. This, I said, tapping it, is a business plan. Damon tilted his head like he didn't understand. A what? A business plan. I repeated. For a wellness retreat. Small scale. Local. Something I've been quietly putting together with some contacts from work. Their faces said it all, total confusion. I've already scouted the land, I said. I've got some early investors lined up. I even have a mentor helping me through the legal side. This house. It's just the first step. It's a rental property eventually. The retreat is going to be my full-time life. Mom blinked rapidly. But I thought this house was your big thing. It's just the beginning, I said, smiling for real now. Smart investment. Fix it up, rent it out, move on. Dad looked like he was trying to catch up. You're moving. Not yet, I said. But soon. Once everything falls into place. My mom had gone pale, and Dad looked like he was trying to piece it all together without letting on how rattled he really was. I stayed seated and placed the folder right in the middle of the table. This, I said, tapping the cover, is everything I've kept track of over the years. I watched their faces as I spoke. Every transfer from my account to Dad's. Every time Mom used my ATM card in high school because we needed groceries. I paused. Even though I was the one eating canned beans while everyone else got takeout, Dad frowned. We were going through a rough patch. You knew that. And I was just a kid, I said, my voice steady. A kid who thought it was normal to hand over her paycheck because she was told it was her job. I took a breath. I kept track because even then, deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. You were just helping the family. That's what good daughters do. I looked her straight in the eye. Good daughters aren't supposed to be used. Good daughters don't have to keep proving they matter while their brother gets applauded for waking up before noon. Damon scoffed loudly. Pathetic. You're seriously still holding on to crap from a decade ago? Grow up. You're right, I said quietly. It was a decade ago. And you know what I've done since then? I grew up. I worked my tail off. I learned. I planned. And now I'm protecting what I built, because nobody else ever protected me. No one said a word. I flipped the folder open. Inside were notarized statements, bank screenshots, and at the very back, a letter from my lawyer. Yeah, I hired one. Not because I was itching for a fight, but because I wanted to safeguard my future. After buying the house, I had decided to make sure everything I owned was protected, just in case. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed it to be clear as day. No one was getting a piece of what I built unless I said so. I'm not here to argue, I said. I'm here to explain how things are going to be from now on. I slid the letter across the table to Dad. He picked it up, scanned the first few lines, and I could see the change in his face. Mom leaned over to read too. What is this? She asked. It's a legal notice, I said plainly. It says that if anyone tries to mess with my property, my money, anything that belongs to me, without my say-so, there will be legal consequences. Everything's locked down. No shared accounts, no verbal promises, no family trusts, unless it's signed and legal. Damon laughed, dry and sharp. You're acting like we're criminals. I turned to him calmly. You asked me to put my house in your name. That's not helping. That's stealing. He shut up real quick after that. Mom looked like she was scrambling for some new angle. Talia, we didn't know you felt this way. Maybe if you'd spoken up sooner. You never asked, I cut in. You never once asked how I was really doing. You just assumed I'd hand over whatever you wanted. Dad finally spoke up, his voice tight. So what now? You're cutting us off completely. That one stung more than I expected. Some stupid part of me still wanted to say no. That I loved them. That we could fix this. But I didn't say it. Because love without respect isn't real safety. And with them, I didn't feel safe anymore. No, I said. But things are changing. For good. And they really were. Because what they didn't know, not yet, was that this house was just the beginning. The girl they overlooked? She had built something bigger. Something they couldn't touch. There was a heavy silence. Not angry, not even hurt. Just hollow. Like they finally realized the version of me they always pictured wasn't standing in front of them anymore. I let that silence hang there. Mom kept darting glances between me and the letter. Damon just slouched back like he was solving some big mystery. You know what this is? He said finally. It's a damn power trip. You get a little success, and now you think you're better than us. Helped raise me, I repeated under my breath. That stuck in my gut. I raised myself, I said, louder now. While you dropped out and begged for second chances, I was working nights and studying all day. I made my meals, did my laundry, handled my bills. I held up a hand when he opened his mouth to argue. Don't twist this, Damon. I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself. Big difference. I took another breath. And I'm not finished. I crossed the room and grabbed another envelope, thinner, handwritten, something I'd been working on quietly for 2 years. I wasn't planning to show you this yet, I said, coming back to the table, but you should know. I dropped it right next to the lawyer's letter. A business plan, I said, for a wellness retreat. Small, local, something I've been building in the background. Damon blinked. A what? A wellness retreat, I said again. I scouted land, got early investors, built a team, secured a mentor. Mom looked lost. But I thought this house was your big goal. It's just the first step, I said. I'll rent it out when I move to the retreat full-time. Dad looked puzzled. You're moving? Not yet, I answered. But soon. And when I do, I'll be the sole owner of a business, a rental home, and fully paid off land. I looked straight at Damon. The same land you said was a waste of money last year. The one you laughed at for being too far from everything. He had nothing to say now. And here's the thing, I went on. I did it all myself. No handouts. No family bailouts. No strings attached. Mom looked shell-shocked. I didn't know you were doing all this, she said. I know, I said simply. Because you never asked. That silence came back, heavier this time. Mom glanced at Dad. He just leaned back, arms crossed, like someone who finally realized the room wasn't his anymore. Damon gave a bitter little laugh. So what? You're cutting us out? Gonna move to the woods and act like we don't exist? I shook my head. No, but I'm setting boundaries. From now on, it's respect or nothing. He muttered something I didn't bother catching. Instead, I gathered my folders and tucked them neatly away. I wasn't doing it for applause. I wasn't asking for forgiveness. I just wanted the truth to be on the record, no more twisting later. As I slid everything back in the drawer, I looked at them one last time. I built this life by myself, I said. And I'm keeping it that way. I study their faces. Not to gloat. Just to finally see them clearly, without the fog of hope or guilt. Dad stood first. No words. Just grabbed his coat and left. Mom lingered, staring like she barely recognized me anymore. I didn't know you were so angry, she whispered. I'm not angry, I said. I'm awake. Then she followed Dad out. No goodbye. Damon stayed behind, staring around the living room. The plants I cared for. The books I loved. The life I had made. He stepped closer. You really think this is over? I looked him dead in the eye. It's not over, I said. It's finally beginning.